Oh, Pythagoras, Pythagoras, just what is your angle? Pythagoras, you may be thinking, isn't that triangle dude from high school, the one with the theorem we all hated? And you'd be right, it is that triangle dude. Hopefully, by the end of this video, you'll know a little bit more about him than just a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'll break it down into 3 simple questions that we'll be answering to keep things moving. The first and most important thing about Pythagoras is, well, we don't know as much about him as we'd like. His origins, teachings, writings, and even his accomplishments are disputed by scholars to this day. Most would say that Pythagoras was born on a Cycladic island called Samos somewhere around 570 BCE. One of the few agreed upon parts of the history of Pythagoras is that he is son of Nisarchos, a gem engraver. When he was 40, he left the island of Samos and began his work. This, unfortunately, is where history starts to get a little muddled. Everyone seems to have their own idea about what happened next. We know that he had an especially great interest in mathematics, especially triangles. He was really into music, and especially on strings. So we knew he went on to work on these things, but how did he get there? Did he go to Egypt, learn Egyptian, and study among them, like many scholars would suggest? I mean, they like triangles a lot too, as it turns out. Maybe. Did he travel back in time to help aliens build Stonehenge? We can never be too sure. All we know for sure is he studied and became proficient in geometry, mathematics, astronomy, took on some protégés, did triangle things for a while, and then maybe died during an unrest at a temple? Or he escaped said unrest and men upon him, only to starve to death. This hasn't been that informative so far, but I promise that's about to change with our next big question. What did he contribute? Well, the most prominent item on the list was the creation of something called the Pythagorean theorem. The theorem states if you know the length of two sides of a few kinds of triangles, you can find the last one's length. He also came up with the tetractys, a triangle figure that added up to 10, which was considered a holy number. The tetractys was also considered a mystical symbol by the Pythagoreans, and the numbers within were representative of all sorts of things, like the cosmos. And very, very much later, it came to inspire another recognizable triangle figure. Those Pythagoreans didn't know what they were onto. Oh, did I mention he inspired something of a philosophical cult? Those were the Pythagoreans. Pythagoras believed that the soul consisted of 3 essential parts: the ethereal, the luminous, and the terrestrial. He also believed the sun was the center of the universe and preached friendship and nonviolence as his creeds. His interest in music also became prominent here. He believed the universe could be envisioned as a massive celestial lyre, where the bodies within hummed with the music of the spheres. His work was incredibly popular, which begs the question, what did his work do for the people of his time? Well, the Pythagoreans, his spiritual successors, had great effects on the work of Plato. You may have heard of that guy. His ideas were central to the concept of a Platonic republic, created by, of course, Plato. He was also considered the first to teach that the earth was round, although he met some disapproval with this theory. Pythagoras and his followers also incurred a new respect of numbers in the Greeks, who sought to design their architecture with mathematical relation, which would lead to aesthetic perfection. Even famous sculptors like Polykleitos prescribed to these notions. Again, his interest in music created a new understanding of the way that notes work, as holding the string of a lyre exactly in the middle of the string will produce a note exactly 1 octave higher, or plucking a string twice as long to create a note 1 octave lower. Hopefully, you triangulated something about Pythagoras through this presentation. Although much of his life is left vague, he's still an interesting man who contributed much to the world.